This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradley above at the top of the screen and everything that we're talking about here today. So today we're going to get into some material that is really exciting. I have to tell you, I feel like we're watching the rollout happen right before our eyes. There is a coronation taking place, a crowning, if you will, and it is of XRP. And I believe what we are going to see in the coming months to years is the absolute payoff to the long game for what Ripple has been doing to implement the use of the asset XRP amongst the largest players in the world, whether they be banks, financial institutions, payment providers, or small medium enterprises, or even just general remittances for regular everyday retail consumers to use. So let's start with some of the evidence that is on the table today. So shout out to Michael Val 5 Links. And by the way, today's show is brought to you by Unstoppable Domains. They are unstoppable. I am seeing so many people go out and get creative and buy some really great names, guys. Check out Unstoppable Domains. You can get a .crypto domain name, which is going to be a way to cut out any intermediary between payments. It is the new .com. And I know somebody came through, told me they bought Chevrolet and Nissan.crypto. I recently bought learndrums.crypto. I bought drumsonline.crypto and several others. I bought the local motor vehicle association.crypto for payments. I mean, it's remarkable. So make sure you check it out. There is a lot out there to be had. So all right, let's get into this thing. So we got some information to go over here today, ladies and gentlemen, and it is all exciting at my house, and I hope it is for you at yours too. Visa, PayPal expand global real-time payments partnership. Thank you to Michael Val 5 Links. Visa, PayPal expands global payments as the pandemic fuels digital payments. Visa and PayPal have expanded ways for small to medium-sized businesses and consumers to use their service. So now check out this. This is remarkable. So this is the actual article, right, where they expand global real-time payments partnership. What I want to take you to right now is I want to take you to this little excerpt that we covered back in June of 2020. And it was even earlier than that the congressional hearing actually took place. But this is Mr. Ahmed from PayPal in a congressional hearing. And listen to him say XRP right out of his own mouth.
Comment on that?
I would just note that, for the kind of core banking architecture, I think there would probably be some changes needed in terms of the Federal Reserve System. But for, smaller valuation or smaller amount payments, I think you already are seeing some blockchain-based systems being created that enable the movement of money. So I think there are examples out there. We talk about XRP or others that
Oh, there it is. We talk about XRP or others right there that could be handling small value payments for PayPal right now. Let's keep going. SBI ACI, Universal Payments, India's largest bank, modernizes its payment switching system with ACI worldwide. We know that they're both connected back to Ripple, ACI especially. And that shows you, look, this is India, right? We're talking about around the world connections here for payments. Then we know recently, as this morning we covered this, shout out to Darren Soto and all the work that he's done for bringing crypto and blockchain to mainstream and getting the awareness inside of Congress's walls. The part of Digital Taxonomy Act made it out of the committee as well, representing the farthest a bill addressing regulatory clarity for blockchain tokens has gotten in the 116th Congress thus far. That is something to keep an eye on. He has also made note that he will be accepting cryptocurrency donations for his 2020 election. Shout out to Darren Soto and all he's done. Now, at the same time, we see also that the Federal Register shows us that the FedNow system is rolling out. Again, we are watching a rollout. Now, I know FedNow is domestic payments. A lot of people say there's no need for XRP to be used where there's plenty of liquidity between dollar events, dollar-to-dollar settlement. I completely agree. The point is the technology that it's built on is blockchain. That's the point, right? So it's all rolling out right before our eyes. Visa, the hearing of support of XRP for small value payments, them announcing that this is where they're at to expand into real-time payment partnerships. I mean, this is amazing what is taking place here. ACI, Darren Soto and the work he's doing in Congress. And now we see the FedNow roll out its payment system. On top of that, we're watching banking and digital payment system in transition with Deutsche Bank. This is amazing. This continues to build out. Let's keep going. SWIFT is facilitating community-wide adoption with the ISO 2022 program, benefiting centralized transaction management capabilities. SWIFT would establish a new messaging system and API service coexistence measures to support adoption, training adoption services towards this goal. Compliant with agreed market practice, ISO 2022 for FI to FI payments, and reporting will be live on SWIFT as of the end of 2022, which this is funny because it was 2023 just a few months ago in an article that Marcus Treacher addressed. I still believe that with, the public-private relationship development there, they could close that gap significantly. Let's keep going even further. They're discussing digitalization. What they have in mind are such matters as the payment system and the European digital currency. This is from Notorious XRP. Shout out to Notorious. Shout out to you, my friend. I hope you are well during these strange days. Let's listen to this little clip here.
Give you, I know that you're probably familiar with it already, but mention for all the audience the various work streams that we have, because I think it really demonstrates the scope of our review and the depth that we want to develop in so doing. So we will cover topics like inflation measurements. That's an important one that is often debated. That's coming up on September 23rd. We will also work on ECB's price stability objective. As I said earlier, it's one of our key focus. Eurosystem modeling, very important in order to identify whether we are capturing all the right ingredients and whether we are working them out in the adequate way. We will also discuss digitalization and the impact that it has from a monetary policy point of view, and I have in mind, obviously, such matters as the payment system, the euro digital currency, possibly. Our topics will include climate change, as those who listen carefully to me. It's a topic that I'm very keen about, which I believe has a systemic dimension that applies actually to price stability. We will include also financial stability and macroprudential policies, non-bank financial intermediation, communication, and the interaction between monetary policy and fiscal policies. Now, I have limited illusion about the absence of leak in all the work that will be done. But my hope is that we can have sufficiently cohesive a process so that we can actually, as we move along, possibly signal directions without actually settling on any particular final considerations, because all these topics actually interact and will matter when it comes to defining our overall strategy.
And there it is right there. Always love hearing from Christine Lagarde, former IMF managing director, now the president of the ECB. So look, we're getting ready to look at another clip here with Miguel Viez from yesterday in a panel that I was sitting in. And it's pretty powerful. Honestly, it's an enjoyable clip. I think you're going to enjoy seeing it. But the reality here is that payment system, low value payments for XRP, traditional market business models, new frameworks, new structures, new payment rails, all of this is happening right now. That's right. While the price is 24 cents, it's happening right now. And I want everybody to keep a key thing in mind, but we'll get that in a second. Let's go ahead and play this clip. I was asked a question by Rob in the stream. And first of all, you're looking at a really great group of people. Okay, you'll recognize some of these familiar faces: Miguel Viez, DAI, Mr. BXRP, and some really, really incredible people. Some from Bill and Karim and Joe, who happen to be from Link2, and some other really, really smart people who are incredible, really smart people about this space and about investing. And they ask really, really incredible questions. So I want to showcase that here and then go into a clip from Miguel Viez, because it's really nice how it goes from one topic right into the next. And I think you're going to enjoy it too. And then we're going to have some remarks about all of this rollout of payments and information and moving to this new digital payment infrastructure. And then we're going to wrap this thing up. So let's listen to this now.
Brad, it seems like once every 5 years, the developed nations get together and reassess the special drawing rights. There's a lot of lack of regulatory clarity, at least communicated to the public by the powers that be. Given that next month we have that committee meeting to readdress or change any rules to the special drawing rights on the U.S. dollar and the reserve currencies around the world, and the next meeting won't happen until 5 years from now. So whoever gets reelected or elected or reelected in this next election is not going to really have much say-so in the SDR, but it seems like there's got to be a lot of regulation exposed to the public sooner rather than later. And this is the chance that they've really got to come to market with some more clarity around the regulations in this digital currency world. Do you see it the same way that I do?
Well, you know what? First of all, Rob and everybody in here that's been so kind with everything they've said, the check's in the mail. I appreciate it. It's honestly, it's an honor and a privilege, and I'm humbled to be in a room with people that are so accomplished in their professional careers and what they know about investing. So the way I look at it, Rob, is you bring up some really great points. I like to go back to what we know, right? Certainly I love to speculate, but I like to speculate on the fundamentals. So 2 weeks ago, the IMF held a webinar on an external adjustment to dominant currencies like the U.S. dollar for the exchange rate peg. Now that's quite a conversation, right? It's not a podcaster, not a YouTuber. We know every 5 years, like you said, the basket is analyzed. However, the IMF has delineated, or they have remarked, that they can go in at any time and adjust that basket, but it is a 5-year period that they do sit down and look at it, and this is that 5-year period. So October through the 12th through the 18th, they do meet. That could be one of the topics. They haven't said specifically, but it's certainly been a conversation because that's what the webinar was about. Barry Eichengreen was a part of that webinar, and he talked exactly about the U.S. dollar dominance issue. He talked about the debasement issue of the currency and the Triffin dilemma of the U.S. dollar. So, I agree with you that certainly the narrative is there. And when you look outside of the IMF and the special drawing right and everything that you talked about, Mark Carney, when he was just, recently at the board of governor of Bank of England, gave an incredible speech last year and is still pounding the ground today about a synthetic hegemonic currency replacing the U.S. dollar. And I mean, these are, this is some really incredibly powerful people making these kinds of statements. So I do agree with you that something is in the works. I mean, we've even heard Brad Garlinghouse from Ripple talk about a debasement of the U.S. currency in the near future. But I don't think that XRP replaces the dollar. I think it has the potential to replace the global reserve status of the dollar. And I believe because currency has three characteristics, right? A store of value, a medium of exchange, and a unit of account. I believe they could use something like XRP, and Miguel may or may not be able to speak to it, but I believe, they could use something like XRP as a medium of exchange and a store of value in between all the currencies and keep the unit of account for the US dollar for the old legacy systems. I just think that that's something that could work, but that part's speculation. But I do agree.
While everybody's here, that's a great question. You guys do realize you have the man on this call. I'll bring him up again. Sorry, Miguel.
Exactly.
This guy said the most profound thing that I've probably ever read since I even got into this space. He said, sorry, Miguel, again. Sorry.
Yeah.
He said that
I was actually, so real quick, I was typing, it was like, I got to go. I got a 2 o'clock. And then you guys said reserve currency. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to wait for a second.
Right. I'm going to say this, and then Miguel needs to comment because this is really profound. He said that the simple goal of Ripple was to make XRP a world reserve digital currency. Is that right? Those words are right.
I don't think I used the word world reserve. I may have used like a global.
I'll hold up while you're talking.
Yeah.
We're going back to the quote, Miguel.
Yeah, checking tape. We're checking tape.
I might have. I did.
Did you want?
I'm pretty sure it was the phrase. I had to show it on Twitter when I was attacked for it.
And look,
Miguel, we know what you said better than you know what you said.
you
Yeah.
I'm just
don't watch
kidding,
me
man.
say it, every other week or something like that. But what I would say is I think a digital currency, and I think XRP is the best designed one to do this. An independent digital currency that can't be debased makes a lot of sense to hold in reserve, right? Like that's just, just objectively, right? I mean, you can take kind of the Bitcoin out of it, the XRP out of it, the Ethereum out of it, doesn't matter. Like the fact that no one can mess with this thing the way you can't mess with gold is a good thing for reserves broadly, right? If things are liquid and things are stable. And that was our goal at Ripple, was to get it to be liquid enough so that folks could at least start thinking about it in that way, right? I mean, the space is so young, it's so early that, Patrick Griffin, who was my boss at Ripple and he's since left, and old Rippler, 2012, one of the first 6 or 7 folks, would tell me stories about how Chris would send him to the IMF and send him, to the BIS and send him to these places to talk about digital currencies back in 2013. And, everybody was looking at this kid who was like 28 or 29 at the time, like he had 19 heads. And, that's changed, right? And I think that's an incredible amount of progress in and of itself. I think it's inevitable that eventually we will get to a point where central banks and regular banks hold these things on reserve the same way they hold any asset, right? But here's an asset that is immutable. You can move it around easily, and is non-debasable, right? I mean, you can basically debase almost anything else. You can dig more things out of the ground. You can certainly print more money. You could borrow more money. You could do a lot of these things. You could issue more stock. I mean, you could almost, even commodities to a certain level aren't debasable. So I think it's a really interesting kind of mental construct to think about. And I believe, and I always will believe this, and hopefully I'll see it come true, that in my lifetime, we will see central banks hold digital currencies on reserve. And I have no reason to think that XRP wouldn't be one of those.
That is quite a statement right there. And listen, when we take all of those things, I mean, listen to what he said in the early days. And it's not like we didn't know it, but I mean, it's powerful when you hear somebody like Miguel reinforce the notion of what you already know, right? Is that they would go around and have these meetings with the BIS and other huge central banks and entities around the planet. And they would talk about the notion of using XRP for settlement. And what do we see today? We see all of the long game that Ripple has been working on begin to pan out, even traced all the way back to something like PayPal in a congressional hearing and talking about using the asset for small value settlement in their business model. We see ACI, Currency Cloud, tied to Visa. We saw MasterCard begin a test pilot with central bank digital currencies. We know that the World Economic Forum in January of 2020 sent out a PDF framework of digital currency, central bank digital currency policy toolmaker kit with XRP cited as an example for settlement for inter and intra-bank settlements. And then here, Miguel makes many great points in that comment, in that response. One of the great points that I thought was really, really fascinating too, and accurate to the T, is that you could even debase certain metals in a way. There's more that you could dig out of the ground and bring the value down, right? So there, when you're talking about with XRP is the ability to have an asset that is, you're not able to debase it. Right? You're not able to debase that asset at a certain point because of the level of liquidity and utility that could be brought to it. And that is the long-term goal. So at the end of the day, when I'm looking at this, when I'm saying that there's a rollout happening before our eyes, when I'm saying that there is the potential for a crowning of a new king in this space, what I'm really talking about is utility. What I'm really talking about is that utility has never been the driver of the price of XRP. But all of the information that we just looked at is exactly pointing to utility taking the wheel. And that is how XRP, in my mind, easily scales to thousands of dollars per XRP over time. Liquidity plus utility equals value over time. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you share with somebody you know. I'll catch all of you on the next one.